Today I wanted to introduce the horses at Mountain Shadows Equine Revival and say a little bit about us. So we are a nonprofit equine rescue, and we are one of the very few rescues in the state of Wyoming. And so we do get a lot of owner surrenders from people needing help in the state because there's not a lot of resources here. So that's a lot of what we do. So we were founded in 2019, and since then we have grown a lot, even through the pandemic, which we were really fortunate to have the support to do that. We have rescued over 50 horses in that time. Our capacity is low because we don't call ourselves a rescue. We say Mountain Shadows Equine Revival because we do a little bit more than rescue. Every horse that comes in gets a lot of training. We get a lot of unhandled horses, and we'll bring them all the way through to being under saddle, going in parades, going on the trail, and then we'll find them really good homes. And the reason we do this is because a well-trained horse is much less likely to find themselves in a bad position. Yes, they can, but if a well-trained horse ends up at the auction, a well-trained friendly horse, there's so much more likely to get a soft landing than an unhandled, scared, aggressive horse. So that's our mission. We do, of course, adopt out under contract and do home checks, reference checks, everything we can do to make sure that our adoptions are good, in good places, and the horses are in good hands. We will also always accept a horse back into our care after they've been adopted. But just in case, we want our horses to be able to keep safe on their own. So that's our mission. So now we'll go in and meet some of the horses and listen to some of their stories. So our first horse we're going to talk about is Paris, and Paris is this really pretty dark bay here. She came to us in last fall. So she's been with us about 7 months, and she was an owner surrender. She came to us when her owner got a really, really serious medical condition and could no longer care for her or her other horses. So Paris is the fourth horse we got from this situation. She was the least trained. So she's a 15-year-old paint horse. She's a solid paint. And she had some, ground training, but she's never been saddled. And she was also fairly pushy when she came to us. So we've been spending a lot of time working her through that and, working towards getting her under saddle. She's very sweet, but she does have a lot of thoroughbred in her, and she's pretty distractible and very forward. But she's a beautiful, sweet girl. The next horse we have is Valkyrie. Valkyrie is this little pinto pony. So she is about 13-1, 13-2 hands. She is an Arabian Welsh cross, and she came to us from a hoarding situation. A woman had over 30 just ponies and goats and llamas, and over 30 ponies along with goats and llamas, like dogs, etc., everything. And she had a hard time taking care of them. They often went without food and water, especially. She did live inside of town, and the animals were located about 40 minutes outside of town. So if it snowed and she couldn't get out there, the animals would suffer. But so she had her for 15 years, and when she passed, Valkyrie and 2 other horses came to us. So we got 2 15-year-old unhandled ponies and a unhandleable bull. He had been haltered but didn't really know a whole lot. 11-year-old stallion. And so the stallion and the other pony has since been adopted. The other pony was Rogue. But so Valkyrie came to us feral, and now she's under saddle, going in parades, on trail rides. She's really, really fun, and she's available for adoption. Next we have our girl Canary. So Canary, as far as we could tell, she went through a livestock auction as a ranch broke horse when she was 4 or 6. I believe that was in 2016. I might be getting my 6s mixed up. But she was brought on by a dude ranch who realized she is not, in fact, ranch broke. And she is terrified of people. And so they kind of just turned her out and let her live her life on their ranch. And they ended up selling their business to another company And so they had to get rid of some of their horses, especially, the horses that weren't being used as dude horses. So she ended up going to a rescue, but her fear of people caused her to kind of kick unexpectedly. She was hard to halter, stuff like that. So they were concerned about her safety and her hurting somebody just in her fear. And were considering euthanasia for her. They reached out and we took her. So they transported her out all the way from Oregon. We have had her since 2020. And she's come a really long way. She's super sweet. She knows great groundwork. She's started on Liberty. She's really fun to work with. But she does have some old scarring and some ring bone that gives her some lameness troubles. And so we're trying to kind of mitigate that pain and figure out what her future is. This handsome man is Boomer. So Boomer actually just came to us yesterday. He's our newest owner surrender, and he is a 28 to 30-year-old Arabian gelding. And he was owned by a really, really nice elderly couple, and they wanted what's best for him and knew that they couldn't keep up with his needs at this time. So he came to us, and he's so sweet. Our plan is to work on putting some groceries on him, and then, he's still sound. He still loves to go. So as long as that's the case, we'll see how he is under saddle and, see if he can go to a nice gentle trail riding home or something like that. He is an ex-endurance horse, and he has quite a few competitive endurance miles. So he's just a really nice guy, and I think he loves adventures and he loves getting out, and we're hoping we can rehabilitate him and bring him back and so he can continue loving adventures. This troublemaker is Jerry. So Jerry is a mini hitty, or part mini. I don't know if he's full mini. He's not too small. But we estimate he's about 20 years old. He also came to us within the last week as an owner surrender, and his owner just ran into some really hard times and unfortunately had to get rid of some of her animals. We wanted to make sure they went to a good spot, and we ended up taking in Jerry. And Jerry's very sweet, but he does have a few bad habits, including not wanting to be caught. But he is a very sweet guy, and so we're hoping to work on him with his few bad habits and then find him a wonderful home where he can be loved on, because I think he would really enjoy that. Huh, Jerry? As long as you don't have a halter in your hand, he's very sweet. Huh, bud? Look at those ears. And here's our girl Shakura. Shakura is our horse she's one of the 4 horses that came to us through a law enforcement seizure last year. And she was the unhandled one, so she wasn't halter trained at all. And we got her coming around, and in the next few months, she had our first couple rides under saddle, and she's the one that ended up having to have surgery for THO. We have quite a few videos on that. So she is in recovery right now, and she's in rehab, but her physical therapists expect her to make a full recovery, so hopefully she'll be back under saddle in the next few months, and there's no concern of that condition coming back because she did have the surgery, and so she did throw all of her hay out of her bin. But yeah, so she should be adoptable in the next several months after she gets going back under saddle and gets some saddle training. She is about 10 years old and about 15 hands. In here we have Miss Sedona and Rio. So Sedona was an auction save. She went through the livestock auction and we bid against the kill buyer to bring her home. We did know that she was pregnant, and luckily we were able to get her home before she had baby Rio right there. So they've been with us about a month and a half. And Sedona's gained a lot of weight. She was really, really thin. She still is thin, but we're working on it. It's hard to put weight on when you're feeding a baby too. But yeah, she's coming along. She was very friendly, but she didn't have any sort of halter training at all. So we've been really working on that, and now she's really good with the halter and very sweet. Rio's been getting halter trained alongside of her while he grows up, and he's getting ready for his first hoof trim, and so is she. She is about 10 years old, and so we think once she's got her weight back on and she's more healthy and more comfortable, and Rio's weaned, she will move through training pretty quickly. So in here we have our two currently unhandleable mares. On the left we have Opal, who's another Appaloosa and came from that same breeding farm that Sedona did. So she went through the livestock auction. She was really thin, and she did have some defensiveness issues when she came to us, including kicking and biting, striking. But we worked through a lot of that, and so now we're just working on gentling her and bringing her around. Supposedly she is 4 years old. We have not been able to confirm that yet, but she's about 15.2 hands. So she's a really nice size. She's a really pretty girl. And then this girl is Adora. And Adora has been with us for a couple years now. She has been the toughest one we have ever had to halter start. But she has come a long ways. She used to just be real terrified of people. And now we can kind of go up and pet her and touch the rope on her, but she still has a little bit of a hard time. But yeah, so she has training sessions at least a couple times a week, working on getting her halterable. And she is about 11 years old. This pretty lady is Sequoia. Sequoia is a 21-year-old Tennessee Walker horse. And she came to us, she was supposedly used on a ranch a little bit. And she went to a family who had her for several years. And they got to the point where they couldn't afford to keep her, and were having a hard time finding her a good home due to her age. So they brought her to us, and she's very sweet. She's a very good girl. She's trained under saddle. We're hunting down a little bit of lameness that she has in her hind end and trying to get her a little bit more comfortable. So she's been visiting with a chiropractor and body worker, and she gets daily stretches and exercises. And she also came to us with a really bad trailer loading problem. So she wouldn't get within 15 feet of the trailer. I guess they broke 4 lead ropes trying to get her into the trailer to bring her to us. So we've been really working on that, and her trainer she'll now load willingly into the trailer. So it's a huge step towards getting her adoptable. Now it'll just be taking her on a trail ride and seeing how she does with that, taking her on a couple adventures so we can make sure that we place her in a good home that knows her limitations and her requirements and how she does. And this pretty girl is also one of our most recent surrenders. So she came to us this week, and she also came to us from a very loving family who had a medical emergency and just unfortunately could no longer care for her. And she is a 22-year-old registered paint horse. She's very sweet. If you see, she's wearing upside down bell boots, so she kind of cuts up the fronts of her pasterns when she lays down. So we're just trying to protect those and help those heal for a little bit. But she's a very sweet girl. She's about 15.2 hands. And so we look forward to getting to know her and seeing where she's at and finding her a lovely adoptive home. This guy is Angus. So Angus came to us last year as an owner surrender. A man had bought him sight unseen and found out that he was much more aggressive than advertised. And even the vets and body workers near wouldn't help him try to figure out what was wrong with him and why he was acting that way. So, he was considering euthanizing him, and he sent us to us. And so we've been doing a lot of work with him, and he's gotten a lot better, and he's now able to be ridden, and he was actually in a parade, and he's getting sweeter. He still has his moments, but we're working through those, and hopefully he'll be available for adoption soon. And this girl's Fennec. So Fennec actually came from the same breeding colt as Adora, the red roan that we saw earlier. And she is a 13-year-old gray mare. She was also feral when she came to us, and she's now working on being started under saddle and doing really well. She's been like ponied on trails. She's been walked in a parade, just hand walked. And yeah, so we're hopefully gonna be able to continue her education and then find her a really wonderful home.